All right, everybody, welcome back to the Direct Response Podcast. Today's episode is pretty exciting. We have Steve Erl on the show. He is an expert master copywriter and master of direct response. He's worked with some pretty big ecom brands that a lot of us in the space look to study from and to learn from. So, Steve, thank you so much for coming on, and tell us a little bit about yourself, please.
Yeah, happy to be here, man. I really appreciate it. This is pretty cool for me. But yeah, I've been doing this for a long time. I started as a direct response copywriter for hire back in 2013. I guess I started writing mostly for free, just trying to round up clients, trying to get out of my corporate job. Like a lot of people, I was just like typing into Google like how to make money in a suit and tie at my corporate job that I hated, and came across a program that was totally different, was teaching people how to build software companies. And I won't get into all that, but there was a module in that course that was like, hey, you need to like sell your software business, and you should learn a little bit about copywriting. And it was like a crash course into like Gary Halbert and John Carlton and sales letters. And it just set me on fire. I was just like, wait a second. I always wanted to be a writer. I have no idea what copywriting is. I thought you had to sell a book or write a screenplay to make a living as a writer. And here I am at like 27 years old, like for the first time. This is pretty cool. And it just became an addiction. After that, I started writing for free for other people in this program I was in. They got really good results. They wanted to pay me. I was making, pocket change, like not much. But then when I decided to kind of go all in on it, 6 months later, I was, out of my corporate job, getting paid a living wage as a copywriter, had a mentor my mentor used to live with Gary Halbert. So like, that was pretty cool learning from him, cut years off my learning curve. And then it was just pick up and move to Spain, because I always wanted to live in Spain. And I've been in Spain for 11 years now. So, and yeah, I had a really cool career and worked with a lot of really cool people in mostly the supplement and health niche.
Amazing. Could you mention, if you're comfortable with it, a few of the brands that you've worked with so people have an idea of what world you're in?
Yeah. I've worked with, if anyone knows Agora, so they're one of the large, like billion-dollar direct mail publishers. When you're a freelance copywriter, back in those days, you wanted to get on with Agora because they could pay big package fees for 30 and 40 and 50-minute VSLs. Trying to think of names that your audience would know, like VShred. I've written for VShred, written for Nooro, written for Amberleave, who was around before Nooro was around so much anymore. And then just UpWellness is a brand that I still work with and love working with. Those guys are really great. And then just a whole bunch of more individuals that are in like the direct response space, whether they have offers or whether they're like full-blown brands. But most of my time before 2020 was spent writing those 30, 40, sometimes an hour long, VSLs, those like 9,000 word scripts. And yeah, I spent time working with Stefan Georgi as well and learning a lot from him. So I never really like menteed with him directly, but man, have I ever learned a lot, working with him and handling projects with him, and just like a world-class copywriter and a really good dude. So owe a lot to him as well and the stuff he's put out in the market.
Amazing. Very cool. So you have quite a bit of experience with, again, a lot of the brands that our guys are familiar with. So to dive in a little bit into your specific skill set, what would you say is your number one thing that you bring? Is it the VSLs? And if so, is it the long form or the short form?
Yeah, it's VSLs would be like that's where I started. It was like long form, the 30, 40-minute ones. Writing those is in the days before AI, right? I don't want to date myself, but it was like, that's a 4-week, 5-week project to write like a 40-minute, 50-minute VSL, because you had to do all the research yourself, come up with a big idea, work your way all the way through it, submit it. Some of these companies that I've worked with, like Agora, have huge legal teams, right? They want to have it go through compliance. So some of those were quite long processes. But now with AI, it's a lot easier. And now I focus on my brands. A lot of short form stuff works really, really well. A lot of advertorials. So I think the two things I spend most of my time on when I'm consulting brands or when I'm writing for my own brands is really short VSLs, and then the advertorials, like long form advertorials, listicles, pre-sale pages, and all that stuff. But I've spent a lot of time as a CMO, as a creative director, managing teams from top to bottom. So running the whole funnel is really what I do, for my brands and for others that I'm consulting for. But if I had to like pick a skill set that I would go toe to toe with any other marketer out there, it would be, okay, sit me down and let me go head to head with someone that can write like a 30-40 minute, VSL.
Mm, very cool. And that's kind of the pinnacle of direct response copy, is the long form VSL in many ways.
Yeah, it is.
Okay, very cool. So when you're working for some of these brands and you're consulting with them, you're in like a CMO type role, or you're just helping them with copy, what are some patterns you've noticed specifically with the e-commerce brands when it comes to their advertising?
Systems win. Like systems win. You can get really big wins and scale up quickly without any systems, because every day I talk to somebody else who's, any age from 18 to 29 to 40 who has fallen ass backwards into a scaling offer, right? And they don't know what to do next, but they're at $1 million a month or something like when you find a trend, you can really ride it. The problem with trends is like they'll make you feel like a genius. Yeah. And if that trend ends and you don't have a brand behind it, it can get really difficult to get back on track. And I've seen it go the wrong way as well. So the guys that I've seen do really, really well, riding a trend, are the ones that kind of ride up a trend and back it into a brand. And that takes systems, especially from the marketing side. So if you're going to do your VSLs and your marketing all internal, which a lot of brands do, you've got to have a good system of how you manage your video editors, how you manage your copywriters, how you manage your creative directors, and then how do those all report up the line to keep things, when it comes to meta advertising, it's a beast that constantly needs blood, right? Like I do talk to some brand owners who I think they think like, well, once we have a couple of winners, that's it. We can just scale. And then they realize like, oh, I need to feed this like every single day. So you do have to have a really good system to come up with new variety and new volume, because that's where people are winning the most on meta right now. I see on X and on social media, a lot of people will debate like, is it volume or is it variety? And usually it's a disqualifier for me, because I'm like, oh, I can just safely ignore them if they're debating one side or the other, because the answer is both. The answer is always both. Yeah. And what Meta is telling us it wants. So you've got to have good variety and good volume. And if you don't have a system for that, to find UGC content, direct promo content, AI content, like all kinds of stuff you want to work into your ads, you've got to have people that know how to bring new stuff in, and then people that know how to iterate on what's already working, right? Those are the brands that I've seen win the most, that do really, really well in their respective niches, because they understand whether they're doing it internally or they found an external team to handle part of it. And there's some brands do a mix of both. It really comes down to systems.
Mm-hmm. All right, amazing. That was a great answer. Now, my next question is leads into the next question. Is a lot of the people watching, I think maybe a majority, are e-commerce founders. So they're running their offers, they're at some level of scale. And I want to get your opinion on how they should approach the copywriting side, especially with VSLs and let's say the advertorial, the highest leverage stuff. You said a little bit about, outsourcing to an external team versus keeping it in-house. And then you did talk about the systems, but could you talk a little bit more directly to those people, how they should approach the copywriting and how they should build that side of the business if they're not, expert copywriters?
Yeah, that's a really good question, because I'll back up one step and just kind of qualify it a little bit. I've been saying this a lot. Some other people I know have been saying this a lot, like Stefan Dorjai. I 100% agree. If you're somebody who is looking to become, say, a freelance copywriter, don't. My answer is don't. Like, AI is doing that. And if you're thinking of doing that and becoming good at copy, I'd be thinking about being a brand owner, because it just learn copy through running it for your own offers. And to be honest with you, most of the really, really good copywriters I've met over my time, they're not copywriters, they're brand owners, and they learned copy because they had no other choice. Like, I don't have money to pay anybody to write copy. I don't have time to read 7 copywriting books and copy out letters by hand and have a mentor and all that kind of stuff. So when you're a brand owner, the best thing you can do is it's not the most popular answer, but it really is rip. Go and find the brands in your niche that are doing as well as they can possibly do, that are experts at what they do, that have really good copy or really good copywriters, and borrow from them. I don't necessarily mean rip them off entirely. I'm be ethical about it. I would never do that. Go and just rip somebody's whole page. There are people who do that, and hey, that's their choice. That's not the route that I want to go. I would be looking at what they're doing and try and break it down and say, okay, why is this working for them? what can I learn about their customer? What can I learn about what their customer is complaining about? What can I glean from, what they're saying in their marketing to come up with new ideas for our business or for your business? And then borrow the structure. Like that's one thing that you can rip off directly. I think people get it confused and go, oh, just rip everything off, and they just go and steal somebody's copy 100%. When I say rip, I mean take their structure, right? Like there's a proven structure for a lot of offers, for short VSLs, for advertorials. That's a big thing that I see that people don't do with advertorials in particular, because a lot of these brands, these e-commerce brands, want to run advertorials, and they should, listicles and long form advertorials. They just kind of write something and throw it out there, and then maybe I'll see it, or I'm consulting for someone and I'm like, what is this? Like, where did you come up with this? And they go, I just kind of wrote it. And it's like, okay, I appreciate the effort, but where you should be ripping is go and look at other brands and try and break down their structure. What's the design of their page? Like, isolate design as a factor. You don't want design messing with it. There's tons of really good designs out there. Borrow one of those, give it your own brand colors, and then look at how they structured their copy and how they structured their offer, so you can get the plane in the air, and then later worry about what your direction is going to be. So that's a big one, is just like following what's out there. I've worked with so many brand owners that they're younger than me, they've got less experience than me. Some of them are like really, really good copywriters because they just had to be. And I asked them, like, how did you get started? And they go, well, it was just me and my founder, and my founder was handling all the money and offer stuff, product stuff. So I just kind of sat down and wrote emails, and I wrote VSLs and put them out there. So I guess the second biggest thing after you've found the structure is don't be precious. There's a lot of founders that are like, well, I've got to have this perfect and that perfect. It's like, in the beginning, you're just buying data. If you wrote a VSL and you think it sucks, who cares? Get it out there and look at your soft metrics. Maybe you'll pop a sale or two. One thing I do like to say to young founders or people that are starting for the first time is, like, even for me, the more I learn about marketing, the less I know about marketing, right? Like it's just true all the time. So they have just as much of an edge as anybody else has by just getting stuff out there, reading the data, and then iterating and saying, okay, our hook rate was solid, our CTR is terrible, and then start looking like, is it the ad? Is it the page? And by that time, you're in it. Like, now you're in the weeds and you're cutting the grass and you're trying to figure it out. And the founders that do the best in that space with their copy are the ones that just they just don't care about what anybody else thinks. They're just like, I'm going to get this and figure it out and make it work. And I'm going to know my customer better than others. I've met some really good founders, and that's, a differentiating factor when it comes to copy, is they become obsessed about their customer. So they know what their customer wants, and they just write copy that gives it to them, and it can work that way.
Amazing. Thank you for that. That's a great answer. And you kind of described exactly my and my business partner's relationship and how I learned copywriting out of necessity, big time. Now, when it comes to writing VSLs, let's say these 5, 6, 7 minute VSLs, what would you say is the 80-20, that one big thing, that one big lever to pull? I mean, you already mentioned the structures, and I agree with you that that's by far the most important thing when you're swiping, when you're starting something new, a new concept, is start with that proven structure. Would you say that is like that biggest leverage thing you can take for a VSL?
Yeah, find like what I would do is I would go, if you can find other 1, 2, 3, 4 minute VSLs that you are doing well from other brands, even if they're not your niche, like go beyond your niche. Some people will stay too hyper focused on the pain niche or the pet niche or whatever it is that they're in, and they don't broaden out and look at what other major brands are doing, because that's also a great way to quote unquote steal, because then there's no way you're going to rip them off word for word because they're running pet and you're running beauty. But you can say, wow, this pet ad really scaled. Like, what's the hook on it? What's the lead on it? What's the idea behind it? How do I take that idea and use it for my beauty product, right? So that's really useful as well. So like just borrowing the structure. We have AI now. It's so much easier. Like, I do this all the time because I'm lazy. I'll be watching someone's ad on Ad Library. I'll just take out my phone, open GPT, and I'll audio record it. It's only like a minute and a half long. It'll transcribe it for me. And then I'll go in there and say, hey, break this down for me. Tell me why you think this is working, that kind of stuff, right? Even there, it's going to give you a massive leverage point. And then in terms of like concrete things inside the ad that you need to focus on, especially when you're launching a new offer, it's hook, it's lead, and his mechanism, right? And mechanism's really important, unique mechanism's really important, but it's not always needed, and especially the shorter ads, like the ones that you're just sending out there as tests, like the 1-minute ads. Some of the ones that we run, it's more like I'm not really going to work in a mechanism per se. It's like I'm testing an idea. I want to see, like, is this hook or is this idea going to work? Get it out there, get it tested, get data back, and go, oh wow, like this angle's definitely resonating. Okay, let me build that out. Now let me turn it into a 3-minute ad that has a mechanism in it and follows more of a proven structure. I think that is something that I'm reminding some of the brands that I'm consulting for, that some of their founders are the copywriter of the brand. And I keep reminding them, like, don't get too precious about it. Just, this is a good idea. These are decent hooks. Get 3 or 4 more hooks onto it and get it out there and get data back, and then iterate from there. Because that's something that I've had to learn over and over again throughout my career, is like getting out of your way, especially when you're someone that has a lot more experience. Experience is great, but it can also slow you down, because you talk yourself out of, you go, oh, well, I know better, that maybe I should change this, and this isn't perfect yet. And sometimes it's better to just get it out there and figure out what's going to come back, especially with the short ads. That's the beauty of the short VSL, is that the risk is low. Like if you run it on $100 spend or $200 spend is what you give it, and it tanks, you're gonna know in $200 and you can cut it. So it's relatively low risk, as opposed to a 40-minute VSL. You really want to have some good insight into what's working for the brand already, what your customer wants, especially because some of these companies are using endorsers. They'll do a full shoot day, and that can get quite expensive for brands. So that would be what I would focus on with the short VSLs, is find a proven structure. Don't be precious about it. Get it up, get it tested, and then iterate from there.
Amazing. Very practical. Now, I know you run your own brands as well, or you have one main brand that you run. When it comes to that and that story, what would you say? I always like to ask the 2 things. What was the one biggest thing that you did that really took it to the next level? And what was the biggest, let's say, bottleneck that you had to solve, or that you're still working through, that's been holding you back from next level?
So the first question was like biggest thing that, like, I guess, like, cracked it open, right?
Yes.
Scale. That was just finding a winning angle. So anytime I launch an offer in this sort of style with like the short VSLs, what I'll do is I'll write an advertorial or a listicle, sometimes both, and I'll do my research on the niche or on my customer. And because I haven't run any ads, I'll take my best guess. And a great example of that is, we were running for a product that we're scaling now. When I was doing the research, I was like, this seems really good for like an energy angle. Like, it could work really well for people that are fatigued, or like they need energy, they need hydration, like it's in the hydration niche. So I thought, well, let me write an advertorial, like a long form advertorial around energy, and then run a bunch of ads into that. This is where, it helps to write, say, like 10 short VSLs. So I wrote 10 short VSLs, all of them mostly the same structure, about a minute and a half long, somewhere like 2 minutes. Every single one of those short VSLs was a different, like drastically different angle. We did kidney health, liver health, gut health, energy, skin health, sleep, anything I could think of that this product would work well for. Even if it didn't quite work great for it, I just want to see like what's going to respond. And immediately we got a signal, like the liver health one worked. And then we ran another liver health one and it worked. And I'm driving these into an energy advertorial, right? So I know there's some friction there, but once I have a signal on the ad front, well, then I'll just go to the advertorial, rewrite it for liver. Boom. Now I can run all my liver health stuff into that advertorial, and we can achieve scale to get the thing off the ground. And then it's just continuing to find new ideas like that all the time. That process for me seems to work over and over again, launching a product.
Yeah, I think that's very practical advice for a lot of the founders listening. So you can have you didn't even have a super general advertorial. You already had a little bit of an angle in the advertorial, but you still tested a ton of different angles through these short ads.
Yeah. And another way you could do it too is like, even if you're totally unsure, maybe you're less experienced than writing a long form advertorial, like a 1,200 word advertorial. Those are tough. Like they're not the easiest to write, especially if you don't have any copy experience. So do a listicle instead, right? Do like a 7 reasons why listicle. They're really easy to write, and just make sure that like 5 or 6 of those 7 reasons are different avatars, especially in the health space. So like your 7 reasons, make sure that 5 of them are 5 different things that a customer could want, And that way, when you're running your ads, your 10 VSL, I always start with 10. You can start with 5. You can write each ad on one of those angles. So then you're pretty confident. Well, if I wrote on like a gut health angle, my reason number 3 in the listicle is all about gut health. So at least the people going there, they'll have some level of continuity, and maybe they'll find something else in the listicle that they like. So that helps as well. So that's my process when we're launching a new product or we're launching a new offer. It's just, again, going back to what I said before, like first principles, like just like get stuff in your ad account, get stuff tested, and then iterate from there. And, you know, if you hit a home run on the first try, like thank the marketing gods, because it doesn't happen that often, but it does. Like some people just like.
And you don't even need that though, right? Because if you're launching 10 VSLs, you're really looking for which one is the best performer out of the 10. Yeah. You're not looking for some home run. And then you just, like you said, you make the advertorial specific to that angle. You probably extend that VSL out, but you're in a way better position compared to if you had just started with that. You may be able to have an angle.
Definitely. And sometimes you get lucky and like 2 of them hit. And you go, oh, I got 2 angles. I didn't even know these were angles that people wanted. Okay, cool. Now I've got 2 ideas I can work with. And you're into iteration phase, and that's where you need to be.
Yeah. And then on the flip side of that question, what was the biggest bottleneck or biggest challenge you had to overcome?
With this brand specifically, it was volume. Like by several months in, we started to scale up pretty good. And like I'm the one writing all the scripts. I've got a couple of video editors. Like we're just bootstrapping this thing, right? I can pump out a lot of scripts. I've got a lot of experience, so I can pump out like 10, 15 scripts a week and get them made with multiple hooks and multiple scroll stoppers. But we were kind of stuck in a certain revenue range. Every day we just like a ping pong ball, just like bouncing between this revenue range and couldn't break through. And it was just obvious to the media buyer and myself. I was like, well, I think we just need volume. So you have 2 options. You're like, okay, either I go and hire another copywriter, another couple of video editors, train them up, do all that work internally. There's benefits to that. The cons were speed. I was like, I just need to get more volume now. So we went and found an ad agency that fit for us. And they were able to take a lot of our ideas and put them together quickly, and basically more than double our output within a week, which was great. And that literally doubled the revenues within the same week. Like we just doubled revenue instantly. And I was like, oh yeah, we just needed volume. So volume in that case, we had variety. We had enough different ads doing some degree of well performance. We just didn't have the volume. And like I said, like what Meta seems to be signaling to everybody right now, this may change next year. I don't know. Meta is changing all the time. Right now, it wants a lot of different types of creative it wants high volume and high variety. It wants to see different stuff to entertain people and get attention. And then it wants to see a lot of it. And it seems to reward you for that. So.
Okay, amazing. So thank you for that little peek inside the business. Yeah, I mean, these have been very thorough answers, and I think very practical for a lot of people, a lot of tools that you covered, the angle testing, the systems inside the business. Could you talk, the last really in-depth thing I want to talk about is those systems, right? I also emphasize that I think the creative testing systems are huge because, yeah, as you said, volume and variety. And if you're kind of gung-ho about that and it's all in your head, it's going to be hard to, consistently do that, especially as you scale. So how would you recommend someone goes about, let's say they're on that wave, right? They found some stuff that connects, some good angles, and they want to build out these systems to create that sustainable growth. How would you recommend people approach these systems? What are the most important things to have in there?
For me, anyways, the way that I think about it is the number one thing for us that runs across our brand and some of the brands that I work with is I emphasize like simplicity. Like make it the most simple flow that you can understand, that you could explain to yourself in less than 30 seconds of how it all works. The worst thing to do is some people get really hyped up of like having these ridiculously complicated systems. And then, maybe they work for you because you've got a brain that works that way. Some people do. But then when you bring anybody else in to manage that, when you they're like, I've had that myself when someone's brought me in. I'm like, this is like reading Mandarin. Like, I don't know what this is.
Yeah, I've seen some of those like project management dashboards that you can just scroll and scroll.
Not for me. So we keep it really simple. We've got a really good media buyer who I think is fantastic. That's not my skill set. So I needed to bring somebody in with that skill set. Some brand founders that I've worked with are amazing media buyers, and they needed to bring me in because they didn't have a copywriter. It depends on where you are and what your skill set is. So we brought in a really good media buyer, and we just keep it really, really simple on our weekly calls. Like we're looking at very simple dashboard that we build in Excel. And we're just breaking down all the ads, and we're looking at performance on the ads. The main things that we're looking at every single on 7-day and on 14-day, we're looking at, hook rate, hold rate, conversion rate. We want to see, what's happening inside the ad itself. So we'll look at all those metrics. We'll identify, okay, which ones are above break-even ROAS or performing really well for us. Let's focus on those this week. And on the call, sometimes we'll open up the ad script or open up the ad itself, look through the ad, and try and find out, okay, we're trying to find patterns through the ad account, right? We're trying to find okay, what's working on this ad that isn't working on these other ads, and can we take that piece and turn these ones into winners? And it's a bit of a malleable process, but it works for us, and it keeps it simple. We're on there for about an hour. We figure all that stuff out of okay, these 5 or 6 ads are working really, really well. These 4 or 5 are still performing from weeks past. How do we keep that performance going? And then we will decide, okay, these 5 need to go for what we call sort of the winner treatment, right? You want to develop a system that works for your brand of how would you extend the life of a winner? So we just call that the winner treatment, right? It's okay, these couple of ads are working really, really well. Let's get 5 new scroll stoppers on them. Let's change, maybe we change if it's a UGC ad, maybe we order another actor who's a male instead of a female. Let's change what the caption looks like. All kinds of stuff like that. And every brand's different. They'll find different things that work for them, and you're always kind of mixing it up. And then we'll also schedule stuff on okay, these are the new ideas I think we should be testing, and those will go to me or whoever the copywriter is for writing that week. And because now we're working with an agency, we're able to take some of that data and pass that back to the agency as well and say, hey, the ones that you guys submitted for us the last couple of weeks, these 3 seem to be doing really, really well. We'd like a round of iterations on those, and then we'd like some new stuff on those angles. And it's a bit of a malleable process but that allows us to keep it really simple. 1, maybe 2 calls a week with the media buyer, and then we're just monitoring performance throughout the week. As you scale up, however, so for the brands that are already massively scaled up and maybe they're running 3, 4, 5 products, we're running 2 products. So it's really easy to manage. The best way I've seen that managed is with the pod system. So having an A+ video editor who can oversee maybe 2 other video editors, a copywriter, and a creative strategist at the top that can watch this group that handles these 3 products, and then duplicate that pod for your next 3 products and for your next 3 products. And if you need to add more creative strategists along the way, I've worked with some pretty big companies. That is how they have a lot of it set up. And at least in my experience with brands that I've worked with in the past where we've used the pod system, I found things start to break beyond 3 products. Like if you have a pod and you're we're going to get them to do 5 products, shit starts to break. It gets messy. It gets too complicated. 1 to 3 products for a pod, because then you have those people saving time because the video editors know the product. They know what works. They know what video style, what editing style you're mixing in. The copywriters, they don't need to research the product as much anymore, maybe for some new ideas, but not for the background of the product. So they're working with it all the time, and they kind of have an idea of what works, and you can get consistency there. Beyond that, things get too complicated. And at least for me, I want to keep things as simple as possible. Right. That's where I've seen it work for small brands. And then for big brands, you do have to bring somebody in at the top layer, like a creative strategist who can kind of stabilize consistency across all your products, right? Maybe sometimes it's even 2 creative strategists, depending on how big you are, so that they can have a weekly meeting and watch okay, what's happening here? Where are things breaking? Where are we late on stuff? That's a much bigger conversation, but from a 30,000-foot view, that structure seems to have worked several times.
Amazing answer. Yeah, we use that pod system as well, and we've come to the same conclusions. Once you go past 3, it starts to break a little bit. But there's also a lot of benefits, as you said, having the copywriters and the video editors just soaking in those, whatever 2 or 3 products that they're with. They get really, really good, and they can come up with really good angles just on their own.
Yeah.
Now, the last thing that we didn't go super in depth in, but I do want to touch on and get your opinion on, is AI. So obviously it's ubiquitous now in every business. What are you using it for, and what have you found are the biggest use cases and the biggest benefits for an e-commerce brand running direct response?
We're using it for everything we can possibly use it for. That's the short answer. I won't hire anybody who's not using AI. I don't care what the position is. If you tell me in an interview or you tell me you're not using AI, that's like saying, hey, in
I use a
1998,
computer.
yeah, this computer thing, it's not going to work out. Like, I don't know. That's what that is to me. I'm like, you're just not paying attention. It's not, I don't think it's going to be stealing everybody's job. I mean, there are going to be people who get totally wiped out by it. But I think for me, I can't predict where it's going to go. I just want to be on the front. I want to have the front seat. Like, I want to know what's going on with it and where we can use it. So to be specific, obviously we use it for copywriting. I use ChatGPT a lot. I know people say Claude is better for copywriting, and I've used it a little bit. It's just GPT is where I've always been comfortable. So I work there. It's great. Yeah. Claude is awesome, right? If you use Claude, like my media buyer uses Claude all the time. It has some great features. I should probably use it a lot more because I had a lot of people say it's better for copywriting. But for GPT, we use it. I use it all the time for copy. I'm always amazed by how many like 8 and 9 figure brand owners I see out there that are like, yeah, it's just you can't do what a copywriter does. It's like, you just don't know what you're doing. Yeah. I think it really helps people like myself who, like, I'm an expert at my craft. I still love copywriting, but it just saves me so much time, right? Like it really does allow me to get more volume in the account and come up with really good ideas. And it gets better with every iteration. Now, as of last week, we have GPT-5. And it's just like, oh, okay, wow, like, it's just that much better. So we use it a lot for copy. We use it a lot for data and analysis. Still a little manual on that front. We should probably work in a few more automations with N8N and stuff like that. That's the kind of the next step for us, is to start using a lot more AI agents and getting more integrated with that stuff. I still do quite a bit of like manual stuff in GPT and different tools to look at our data and give me insights on that stuff. So that's great. We use it for SMS. So we've got a great SMS team. Like I'm not affiliated with them, but they're called Phantom.ai. They're like an AI automated SMS tool. Phenomenal. Like, we onboarded with them. We did like $1,200 on our first day, so it was profitable in day one. And they've been like a high ROI win for us, where they have these different AI agents, from win back flows to conversations to education content for your customer, that once your customer starts texting, it's passing them through these agents to get them the answers they want. So that's been a nice add-on. So we use it there. I know my media buyer uses it quite a bit with some N8N automations for things. We're starting to use it now to teach my graphic designer how he can just generate really solid static ads for us. Like, to make it simple for him, I just wrote him a copy doc of like, hey, here's our best performing copy. I'm going to teach you how to create static ads, make 10 a week. Pick the copy, have fun, learn. Like, I don't care if stuff doesn't work, it doesn't work. We'll help you along the way. So he uses it quite a bit. Our developer, he's a phenomenal coder. He's full stack dev, but he's using it all the time to like solve problems faster with code. So everybody in the business is using AI to some degree. The video editors are expected to use AI for voices, for, all kinds of stuff. There really isn't an area of our business that is not touched, and it's just going to continue to be that way. I want to automate more. That's the next thing for us, is like, okay, how do I get my head around or find time to learn some of these like AI agents? Because I think that's the next place marketing goes, like direct response marketing goes in that direction, where it really just, it really levels the playing field and how fast someone can whip up a brand with AI. Yeah. So like that leads to a whole other conversation of like, what's your competitive advantage? And I think it is brand narrative. I think it's brand story. I think it's like who you are and what you're selling and who you're selling it to, and how you do that uniquely. That will help stand out in a world where AI can just spin up a Shopify store like that. So yeah, that for us, it's just anywhere we can use it, I'm game for it. So
amazing. Yeah, that's actually a really good point. I don't know if I've ever heard someone say that so clearly, but as AI just makes the quality and the quantity goes through the roof for pretty much anyone who's capable, it becomes about identity of the customer and identity of the brand. And that becomes the whole game.
It really becomes about I've thought about it a lot. I think it becomes really about the relationship, almost friendship, that you have with your customer. Yeah. And it's like, I have this, I don't know. I think we're moving into a world where it's just, I keep saying this term over and over again, and it's everyone's an affiliate. Everyone's an affiliate. That's what I think. That's the world we live in right now. Everyone's an affiliate. Your customer can sell your product and make money for you. You have like 13, 14, 15-year-old kids using WAP and and clippers to clip stuff together and spin stuff out. You got TikTok Shop, right? TikTok Shop has exploded in the last, 2.5 years. So it allows people to just go use AI and work for brands that allow them to make money. Right now, I think we're in a stage of like, everyone's an affiliate and they just want to make money being an affiliate. Where does that go in a couple of years? Probably it goes to, well, I only want to work with these types of brands. It's going to really resemble, what us direct response marketers have known about affiliates for a long time. Like, you have your super affiliates, you treat them really good, you want them to push. They're the traffic experts. But like in my time coming up, the affiliate marketers were always part of this like weird mystical world that I knew I needed them and I knew how good they were at getting traffic. You have the Peter Kells of the world who are just some of the greatest affiliates of all time. Now I think everybody's just an affiliate. It's not this like in the shadows, like I know all these tricks and you have to go on Warrior Forum and learn all these like weird tricks. It's right out there. And if you want to go, if you're 11 years old and you know how to use CapCut and cut things together and you understand marketing at a visceral level, which a lot of young kids do, you can come and make money for our brand, like cut stuff together and, we'll pay you commission, no problem. So I think that's a lot of where we're going in a world where everything's kind of automated away by AI. Some of the hard stuff's automated away. It becomes about, how efficient can you be with your team? That's the other thing I think is coming is I'm already seeing it. The days of like a $100 million company that has 300 employees, gone. Like there's teams now that are already doing 50, 60, 70 million on the team. They may have contractors it's like 8 people, right? So it's just going to shrink down team size. And it's about how efficient are you with your resources? And then what story do you tell about your brand? And we see that with, some of these brands that have really blended direct response and ecom well, like Primal Queen, like Obvi, right? Like Comfort, like brands like that have just had massive scale in a very short time. I kind of look at like, what's the common denominator? And it's like their founders are just very involved with the affiliates. They're very involved with the customer. They're very involved with the conversation going on between people. And that's the kind of brand that we're launching a new brand now, and we're doing it hardcore with a seeding program. And I want to take a big leap in that direction because that's all new to me. And I want to be, I was at a Tony Robbins event last year, and I remember sitting in the seats, and the 2 women behind me were literally having a conversation debating Four Sigmatic or Rise. Like they were debating mushroom coffee brands, right? And like these are like direct response DTC brands. I was like, oh, that's the conversation I need to get my brand into, and that's who's going to win. So
100%. Whoever can get into the organic conversations in the world through identity story. Amazing. So Steve, thank you so much for coming on. I mean, it's been amazing. You gave some really, really great answers. I appreciate your time. I think the audience is going to love this. Now, if somebody wants to work with you or they have a big brand or they want to talk to you, where can they reach you? Email. Just reach out to me. Like I keep it pretty simple. I don't have like a website, or I'm not doing the guru thing. I mean, mad respect to those who do. Not my thing. I'm busy with other stuff. steve.erl19@gmail.com. Like just email me there. We'll put that in the description.
Yeah, I'm always happy to have a chat with anybody, hop on a call, see what you're doing, because at the end of the day, the more people I talk to, the more I learn, right? Like I said at the beginning, the more I learn about marketing, the less I know. It really is like one thing to keep in mind for anybody in your audience, that of all the marketers that I've met, from like all the great marketers from, Russell Brunson to Stephen Georgi to like even my mentor, who was wealthy before the internet started, they all share one thing in common, and they're just like, they're always curious. They're always willing to say, I don't know, could you tell me about that? Even if it's someone who has like 6 months of experience. Mm-hmm. And I try to keep that in the back of my mind. Like every conversation I have with somebody, even if they're only making $1 online, maybe they're doing something in a new way that I never thought of before, and then I can benefit from that. So always happy to have a conversation with somebody.
Amazing. Well, Steve, thank you again.
Cool.
Take care. Have a good one.
You too.
See you, my friend.
See you.